Good afternoon. It's WTIC Todd here. Thursday. So much to plow through, including extra speed added out of necessity because Governor Ned taking the 4 o'clock hour. He loves the big audience that we have here in the afternoon on WTIC, so he invades as often as he can. Joining us right now to put some perspective on everything going on, Rob Sampson, state senator from Wolcott, who is he's a rational mind and an articulate voice, so it's good to have him here. Hello, Rob.
Good afternoon, Todd. Thank you very much for having me.
World's going crazy. Is this going to, or does this represent something good or something bad? Is it a danger and a threat or an opportunity? How do you look at it?
Oh, that's a really broad question. I don't know which crisis we're referring to. The edict by
the
our
whole
state
thing.
governor.
It's hard to even separate it out. But the
true.
I think that answer is that's what the problem is. It represents an opportunity, and opportunity represents danger because the bad guys can take the opportunity to further plunder the state. And the good guys, if they're out there, might come out of hiding and make some good stuff happen.
Right. And I'm trying to lead the way, Todd, in two separate respects, and I'm glad you framed it in that way. Number one is that I have referenced on your show in the past that I was working with a team of business owners and a constitutional attorney to draft a complaint against the governor for his broad overreach of his executive orders. And we are nearly ready to file that complaint. In fact, I think it is in the hands of a marshal at the moment. And our website is live. We are collecting donations to further our efforts. But the purpose of the lawsuit is essentially to hold the governor accountable for his breaches of executive authority. And in particular... So
are you going to share this domain with us?
Oh, yes. It is ctbizfreedom.com.
B-I-Z?
Yep, B-I-Z. Yeah, ctbizfreedom.com. And it represents the efforts of the Connecticut Business Legal Fund, Connecticut Business Freedom Legal Fund, forgive me, is the name of our organization that we've established. And I'm joined by a nail salon, a fitness gym, another organic type hair salon, a person that teaches martial arts, and also a tattoo parlor. All businesses that were affected in some way or another by the governor's overreach, and I feel in some cases targeted in the way he described what he feels is essential versus non-essential. And if you read our complaint, which will be public the moment it is served to the governor, we will be sharing it on the website. It goes in great length and detail to explain in just the way these businesses were harmed and the lack of clarity in the way the governor made his decisions.
What is the nature of the overreach, Rob Sampson, that the governor has committed? Where has he gone wrong? Because the media tells us he's got broad powers under the emergency acts available to him.
Well, our complaint is around 60 pages, I think, of great detail of how he has overreached. But the short answer is simply that he is making laws out of whole cloth.
Isn't that his prerogative with emergency powers? Can't he? No, it isn't. Isn't he the king right now?
Well, there's a lot of different arguments that could be made. The number one argument is that the state of Connecticut Constitution is very explicit in that it says that only the legislature may make laws. So that means that any laws that are made by another entity, including the governor, are not laws at all.
Even though, so that would mean that this emergency statute under which he's claiming the right to make these laws, that would be unconstitutional if this were all litigated properly.
That is correct. We're not even attempting to make that argument. We are taking it as a consideration that it is accepted that the legislature was able to pass that authority on to the governor, which I don't know that we necessarily needed to, but we didn't. We chose not to fight that fight and instead concentrated on the statute itself, which essentially empowers the governor to modify existing law for public health purposes. The people that wrote that law explicitly used the word modify, not create. And they said existing law. And if you look at the governor's executive orders as he issues them, in most cases, you will see a statute that exists currently referenced as to what he is modifying and for what purpose. But there are plenty of them where he failed to do so because there is no existing statute. For instance, there is.
So he's even acknowledged by what you're saying. He has acknowledged that there is a requirement for him to reference existing laws, and then he walks away from it.
That is correct. If you go to the portal.ct/gov coronavirus website in the state and you look at the list of executive orders, you can see how it's laid out, and you'll see statutes referenced. The one in particular, the most egregious, and there were plenty of things to go after, and they are referenced in our complaint. But the number one thing was the determination of which businesses are essential and which businesses are non-essential. There is no such law in our state that determines businesses in either category. And for the governor to go and make that determination is unlawful. That is not modifying any existing law. That is creating a new law out of whole cloth. It is arbitrary.
Okay, but what you're suggesting, Rob, with your argument, what you are pointing out in terms of the facts here, is that really if a governor can get people to go along with an idea, it doesn't matter what the law is. It doesn't matter what the truth is. It doesn't matter what reality is. If they can fabricate enough fear out of enough falsified evidence, as they've done in this case, to make him feel comfortable long after this thing has, the goal has been scored in terms of what the mission was in terms of slowing down and mitigating the damage caused by the virus, and considering their miscalculation about the severity of the virus. The fact that we're 3 months into this and he's got another 3 months on his emergency, his permission, his powers, it's ludicrous that this is all going on. And the only reason it's still going on is because people, for the most part, aren't complaining and aren't yelling and screaming and are accepting the idea that the governor is destroying the economy, presumably for some good reason.
Well, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of places to take that conversation. But the number one place to take it is we see this in other areas. We see this in laws that are ignored. Our state ignores federal law on the subject of immigration all the time. And speaking of the governor and overreaching executive authority, he just issued yet another executive order creating a public-private partnership with some organization to give Connecticut taxpayer money to undocumented, quote-unquote, workers. I say that because he put that in his executive order, despite the fact that people who are undocumented are not supposed to be working lawfully in the state of Connecticut. And I'm curious to know, does he know who these people are? Can he identify them? And what is the process going to be using taxpayer money to hand out to these individuals? So there's another executive order that is completely unlawful on numerous grounds. Number one, it's in direct violation.
Will you be filing a lawsuit on that one as well?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. We're certainly interested in expanding our complaint if we have cause to do so. I'm not the lawyer, though. But we certainly talk about all of these things, and we want to make sure that we...
Well, I'd love to see this. I'd love to see a multi-speared attack that goes after the governor on everything illegal that he does. And I think it's dangerous to the state. We're talking to State Senator Rob Sampson. I think it's dangerous for the state to simply accept. There is this political quiet going on right now, which strikes me as being really inappropriate. This should be a time of furor and frenzy in terms of the response of the political class. And I don't understand what all this quiet is about. Do you have some sense of that? I
could not agree more. And that's why I am trying to provide as much furor as one man can. When you're elected to public office, and particularly to the state legislature as a representative or a senator, you are a representative of your constituents. That's your first and primary duty. The governor has attempted to relegate me and my colleagues to being employees of the customer service department at the Department of Labor. That's essentially what he has done in the new state government under King Ned Lamont. He has taken away our ability to craft policy. and wants us to do nothing but field the phone calls for his failure to properly run the state's Department of Labor and provide unemployment compensation. And I reject that. I reject that out of hand. I have spoken up every time he brought up another mechanism to create policy. He first created this Reopen Connecticut group of people that are not even state residents. And then he hired an out-of-state consulting firm using taxpayer money, all people that he charged with making policy for the state of Connecticut. Well, the fact is that the people have already elected an entire legislature, 187 individuals to make that policy, and I'm not going away without a fight. I'm going to stand up and say I'm representing my constituents in every way, shape, and form. I want to be the one making that policy, and when the governor is making policy on his own, I'm going to call him out on it.
Well, that all sounds good. We're talking to Rob Sampson. Stay with us. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment on WTIC. State Senator Rob Sampson is here. What else do you want us to know about the lawsuit or the shutdown? Anything else on state politics you want to cover?
I just want to remind everyone that website is live, ctbizfreedom.com. We need your help and your contributions. Please take a few dollars out of your pocket, $10, $20, and certainly we will take more. But this is going to be a process. Our attorney has already put in a tremendous amount of work, and this is going to be a process to take on the entire state government of the state of Connecticut to reclaim it for the people so they have the right to make the determination about what our law should be and not one man.
What are the possibilities of getting a judge to rule according to the law as opposed to according to the politics?
Well, I have been cautious about doing this for the last couple of months, as you probably know, Todd. We only have 4 options to reclaim the state of Connecticut from Governor Lamont. Number one, he can relinquish his power voluntarily, which he does not seem apt to do. Second, the legislature can go into session and override his executive authority and take away the emergency powers. Unfortunately, the Democrats hold majorities in both chambers, and as far as I know, neither chamber has offered a single Democrat senator or representative willing to sign a document that would bring us back into session. So we will not achieve a majority in that way. So that leaves only legal action. And my initial attempt was to try and get the federal, courts to help. And that is because I'm concerned about the politicizing of this issue inside the state of Connecticut court system and judicial, class. So I went to U.S. Attorney General William Barr, and I wrote him a letter, mostly because he came on the television maybe a month ago and invited anyone who was concerned about their governors overreaching their authority and using the coronavirus as an excuse. So I took him up on that. I wrote a letter, drafted a bunch of concerns that I had about the governor's abuse of executive authority and the things he's doing that are unconstitutional. And I tried to get as many of my colleagues to sign on to that letter as possible. And if you remember, only 11 of my brave colleagues, all 11 10 House Republicans and 1 Republican senator joined me. We were the dirty dozen, I guess, that wrote the letter to Attorney General Barr. But so far, we haven't heard anything. I've attempted to follow up with his office and have had no response. So this.
You mean you haven't been able to speak to a person? You haven't been able to speak to a person at the Attorney General's office?
We have talked to, people on the staff, but no one who has made a concrete commitment that anything would be done about the complaint I had written. I've actually also forwarded the letter I sent to the U.S. Attorney General to several federal prosecutors, which the U.S. Attorney General offered up in a recent newspaper article as people he was charging with the duty to go and hold these governors accountable. So I don't know what's going on that front, but I don't want to wait any longer. It's already been far too long. There are a number of lawsuits filed by other entities. We began working on this weeks ago also, but we wanted to make sure our I's were dotted and T's were crossed. And this is the lawsuit that is the one that makes the most sense and has the best chance of succeeding to stop the governor in his tracks. I really urge people to help us. Please go to that website and donate.
We're talking to State Senator Rob Sampson. Rob, anything you want to say about what's going on in the world in the larger sense? Can you provide some context for us the way you're looking at all the change going on right now?
Are you referring to the issue of racism and police brutality?
Yeah, the whole package, yes.
The whole package. I mean, obviously, racism is pure ignorance. No thinking person can judge another, person's character or their trustworthiness or their intelligence based on something as superficial as skin color. So racism is just the ground of ignorance, and any kind of violence is deplorable, and it's just that simple. What happened there happened there. My concern is that you see a lot of officials in the state of Connecticut willing to go jump the gun and say that we need to take action here in Connecticut to defund the police, to pass a bunch of new laws about the procedure. And I'm cautioning them to say, hey, this didn't happen here. And I want to stand by the police departments in the 5 towns that I represent. These are fine men and women. They take their jobs seriously. They are professionals. We do not have the same kind of issues that happen in Minneapolis. And I'm willing to listen to anything. I mean, if we get dragged into session to talk about various type of policy, I will listen. But I think the state of Connecticut has been pretty proactive in making sure that our laws are good as far as how our police departments are managed. I'm a strong advocate for body cameras. Body cameras are the greatest invention in policing that there is in my mind, because that camera captures what happened. And police officers were originally reluctant about the body cameras, but they have come around to love them, because when someone files a complaint against a police officer, now they have that body cam footage to say, no, this is what actually happened. And it's often in their favor. So, I mean, I would just caution people to not jump the gun. There's a combination of things happening. I believe that there are parts of that movement which are determined to actually increase our racism problem in this country by driving a wedge between people. And it concerns me greatly, especially since there are so many wonderful people that are getting involved because they want to be part of a righteous cause to fight against racism. And to me, it's just an interesting dichotomy to see, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which is an organization that wants to defund the police and everything else, and a lot of people subscribing to that for what's really a noble cause. And I want to encourage that noble cause and discourage the people that want to create more strife.
All right. State Senator Rob Sampson, thank you for being here. Go to ctbizfreedom.com. That's ctbizfreedom.com. Check out the lawsuit that a group of people, including Rob Sampson, are filing to try to take the state government back from Governor King Ned and to let democracy reign here. So thank you, sir, for being here.
Thanks so much, Todd. Keep fighting for freedom.
All right. The fight for freedom. I like it. We'll talk more about that coming up on WTIC.